We're going to take a little look here at slide design. And before I actually put this into presentation mode, I'd like to note that this video also has an attached Google slideshow with it, and you can find that in the description of the video. And please note that I'm going to add to the speaker notes, which are located at the very bottom of the slide, so that you can have all of the little notes that go along with the bullet points you'll see here. If for some reason when you go to open the slideshow, you do not see these speaker notes, what you'll need to do is go up to the very top where you see View, and then make sure that you have a check mark to the left of where you see speaker notes, and that will open this pane at the bottom, which is where I will put some notes. So let's go and talk a little bit about slide design. There's a few important things we need to keep in mind when we're designing slides. Purpose, text, spacing, colors, font, videos, images, clip art, emojis, Bitmojis, animations, and transitions. We start with the purpose. Everything should really focus back on what is the purpose of the slideshow that you're creating. Is it for live instruction, for recorded instruction, for entertainment, or for content reinforcement? Depending on your purpose will depend on the way that you build out your slides. If you're using slides for live instruction, you're probably going to want to have them pretty simplistic so that you can really drive home your point and get students to focus on what you're talking about and really hone in on those key essential skills. If it's for recorded instruction, you're probably going to need to include a little bit more information on each slide, or perhaps, just as I'm doing for you right now, provide some more information in the speaker notes. If it's solely for entertainment, then by all means, add in the bells and whistles and make it crazy. If it's for content reinforcement, it's somewhere in between being super strict on how you're designing things and having a little bit more freedom. Text. Always remember, we're focusing back on the purpose. Bullet points are great. It keeps things very short, sweet, and to the point. You want to limit the number of words or the amount of text per slide. Everything stated in simplest terms. Less is more. There's nothing worse than having a slide full of text that I could just read on my own, especially if you're presenting it to me live. Spacing. Definitely keep the eyes in mind. Just as we're talking about social distancing these days, keep the spacing socially distant. Keep things separated. The slide here that you're looking at is got double spaced between each of the bullet points. Before and after punctuation or special characters. You'll notice on the slide prior to this, we'll take a look at that. I've got this forward slash. I actually added an extra space before and after so that it was easier on the eyes. Colors. Remember readability. Remember visibility. You want to limit it to no more than 4. You probably want to keep it even less than that if you can, to keep it consistent throughout. If you have a darker background, as I do here, you want lighter letters. They say now that it's actually easier on the eyes when you're watching a presentation to have a darker background and lighter letters. You'll notice that most of the presentations that I've done in the videos I've created, I've got a white background with black letters. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I turn these presentations into one-page tutorials. And when we're printing out one-page tutorials, to print something out that is a dark color in the back with white lettering takes a lot more ink. So while I recognize that that's probably not the way we should do it for visual means, I have to keep in mind too that people are printing these out. Consistency throughout. You don't want to have one set of colors on one slide and a completely different color set on another slide. Also, we need to keep in mind learning differences. I have a son who is colorblind, so red and green are particularly difficult for him, especially if they're placed near each other. So keep that in mind when designing slides. Font. Again, readability, visibility. no more than 2, maybe 3 different fonts throughout, and you want to keep them consistent. Perhaps you want one font for your titles on your slides and a different font for the actual text. That's fine, but you don't want each word to be a different font. That is extremely distracting. Keep it consistent throughout. The sizing matters. Remember that it needs to be big enough for the eyes to capture. And we also need to keep in mind learning differences. Sans serif fonts, the ones with no ticks or tails at the end of the strokes, are much easier for those students who are dyslexic. Some examples of those fonts are Arial, Comic Sans, Verdana, Tahoma, Calibri, Century Gothic. So you want a sans serif font. You don't want those little extra marks at the end of your letters. As far as readability and visibility, when you make a presentation, if it's live, you want to take, I don't know, a good 6 steps back from your computer and make sure that you can see it at a distance. Videos, images, clip art, emojis, and Bitmojis. I agree, they're fun, they're cute, they're entertaining, but why am I using this image? What is the purpose of the image? You want to convey meaning. Having extraneous images and your cute little Bitmoji all over the page. I've seen a lot of great Bitmoji classrooms that are out there on the internet and in presentations. They're extraordinarily distracting, especially for a student who has ADHD or inattentive disorder. Even your normal student who might be learning at home, there are already distractions by learning online, distractions in the home and distractions because they're on a device. So really keep this in mind. If you are inserting a video, is it absolutely necessary? Does it actually go with what you're talking about? Or could that video be sent for as something that the students could watch prior to your presentation or after the presentation? You want to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Again, the attention span, you've got to keep that in mind. Again, let's look right here. I just noticed this in my own presentation. The punctuation and the spacing. Notice how close the question mark is to the Y. I didn't add a space as I did up here. Huge difference though. It's one of those minimal things, but I noticed it right away and it was difficult for me to read that word. The quality of the image. Is it really pixelated? Is it sort of that blurry image? If so, don't use it. Depending on the image size will depend on if it becomes blurry or not. Sometimes when you try to blow something up, it doesn't work as well as you might imagine. You need to look for an image with a different number of pixels in that image. I would overall just limit the use of videos, images, clip art, emojis, and Bitmojis. And animation/transitions. What do you hope to accomplish with that animation? They're very cool. However, again, students get very distracted very easily. The more animations on your page, the more distracted they become. Animations work particularly well if you're trying to accomplish something like revealing text or asking questions and then having the word appear. But if you're just adding in extra animations to make it jazzy, it's not worth it because it really takes away from your presentation. Do you need the custom transition or not? Again, keep in mind learning differences when it comes to this, and we want to make sure that students are really getting what they need. We're going to look at a couple of examples. This one here, wow, I'm a little overwhelmed. My eyes are taking a minute to adjust. Got a lot of things happening here. We've got some different fonts. We've got lots of color. I don't even know where to begin with this, but this is very overwhelming. How could you do this differently to accomplish what this person who had created this slide was trying to accomplish? You probably need to move these images to a separate slide entirely. Look at the font that these were images that they captured. Probably want to keep that consistent with these up here. Again, that's an awful lot. Here's another example here. They pared it down a little bit. This is the same person who created this. So still, I feel like this is an awful lot on a slide. So take a look at this. And then I redid this slide. Again, this is not probably the best that it could be done. I probably would take this black writing and change the color of it. I'm not sure how I would do that at the moment, but it does create quite a difference for the eyes. So let's look at them side by side. So this was the original, and this is what I created from that. What I did was I took out some extraneous text. I looked at the line spacing. Notice how close it is here, and it's a little bit more spaced out here. I also increased the space between these lines, these divider lines. This person used a colon, which is a lot of extra dots. I used a period. And the color. I changed the color. I inverted the dark text on the white background to a dark background with lighter text. And I do have an example of animation for you where it's used in a way that's very helpful. If I can get out of this presentation, this would be, here we go. Here's a great example of an animation. Now this is where animation particularly works. So this is an example of a game, a review game that you might play with students. Which color is liked the most? Ask the students to answer. I click on answer, the answer pops up. That is perfect animation for something like this. So that's a little look here at slide design and the things that you need to keep in mind. Purpose, text, spacing, colors, fonts, videos, images, clip art, emojis, and Bitmojis. And finally, animation and transitions. Again, remember, always come back to your purpose. What are you trying to convey to your audience, and what type of slideshow are you presenting? Is it for live instruction, recorded instruction, entertainment, content reinforcement? Hope you learned a little bit about slide design, and I look forward to seeing you again.